Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Evolution Now podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Terrance Johnson. Thank you so much for joining me. Before I get started, I just want to thank everyone for all the support, all the invites on the different podcasts. The Instagram followers continue to increase. I believe we're right at a little over 53,000 right at 5 months. For what I'm told, we're doing very well. TikTok as well, we're doing super fantastic. And YouTube, we got to get the subscribers up. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the follow button on Instagram, as well as on TikTok. So what are we going to get into today? You know what? I have a lot to discuss. There's a lot to talk about. I get a lot of comments and questions about the things that I post, and hopefully we can address a few of those today. One of the things I do want to talk about is actually going to be kind of a twofold conversation. The first part of the conversation is going to be, how do you get what you want? How do I really get what I want? And then the second part is going to take, I would say, more of a unconventional turn in reference to the powers that be, the powers that be. So let's first address, how do I get what I want? You know, I'm 55 years old. I've done very well in business. I have a pretty great life. I'm very fortunate. I don't want to say that I'm not, but it wasn't always this way. There was a lot of struggle, financially, personally, spiritually, emotionally, even some physical challenges along the way. But yet I'm still standing. And so what I want to share to everyone today is, I don't want to come across if I have all the answers. That's not the case. But I do want to share what I know. Not necessarily what I believe, but what I know to be true. There's a distinct difference between the two. Now, what is it that I know? Well, I know this much, that we have a lot more in common than we have than we think. We have a lot more in common as people. I do know that this is reality. I do know that we're all going to die. I do know that, God willing, the sun will come up tomorrow. I don't want to be facetious when I say that, but just to give you somewhat of a fundamental or a foundation of where I'm trying to come from. Now, how do I get what I want? Believe it or not, it is not difficult to get what you're wanting. It's not at all. The challenge is believing that you deserve it. Many of us, for whatever reason, I believe it's actually a form of social engineering and programming. From the time that we're born, we're stripped away from our gifts, if you will. Very few people actually get to operate in their gifts. They wind up assimilating into the matrix, society, whatever you want to call it, and working and doing things to make a living and living their life. And not that it's not a good life, but maybe not a life that's fulfilled. Maybe a life that's not filled with joy. Maybe they never achieved the things that they were wanting, be it as it may. But what I want to tell you, the first thing to get what you want is, here's the most important thing, and pay close attention. You have to decide. You have to decide what it is that you're really wanting to have happen in your life. Once you decide something, here I'm going to give you some practical steps. I want you to write it down. The book teaches us, you and I, to write your vision down and to make it plain. Something magical happens when we write things down on a piece of paper. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's something in the universe, in the cosmos, but I want you to write down what it is that you're desiring to have happen. Now, here's the secret to it. No matter how many videos you watch, no matter how many times you meditate, it ultimately comes down to one thing. In order for you to get what you want, you must believe you already possess it. And this is very difficult, and I'm not suggesting fake it till you make it. That's lying. What I'm saying to you is, believe that whatever it is, and know that whatever it is you're desiring to have happen has already happened. You know, these powers are universal. All of us possess them. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, most people just don't discuss it. You can call it the Great Awakening or a new level of consciousness. You know, many people give it many different names. Some people call it God, some call it Allah, some call it the light, some call it the mind, some call it the source, some call it the universe. I find it interesting. No one is denying that exists, that power exists, if you will. Everyone's just calling it something different. The fact of the matter is that each of us, I believe, are here by choice. You are not just some random variable in an equation. You exist here for a reason. Now, when you come here, you forget. You forget why you came here. Unfortunately, many of us have been taught that if it's not in the Bible, or if it's not in a Quran or any other biblical literature, then it can't be real. This is a grave mistake. There is literature upon literature of ancient texts that will serve us well. A lot of this is just simply hitting from you, because the one thing society doesn't want is a highly educated, fit, spiritual, and financially secure people. If you become that way, you become harder to control. This is why it's important that the masses go along to get along. I'm betting that you're not one of the masses. For those who do follow me and the things that I suggest, what should I do? Well, the first thing I want you to do is to decide. Secondly, I want you to write it down. After you have written it down, I want you to either to develop a routine or an affirmation, one that works for you. Don't repeat what someone else is saying. All right? Develop something that you feel comfortable with. Now, how often should I say this prayer or affirmation? You should say it as often enough until you believe it. That's what it's predicated on, and it is believing that will bring you to knowing. It is believing that will bring you to knowing. There's a big difference between believing something and knowing something. Let me give you an example. All of us have mothers and fathers. Now, for all things being equal, how many people believe that their mother loves them or know that their mom loves them? I'm sure most of you would say, I know my mother loves me. And by knowing that my mother loves me, it does not require belief. You see, knowing is the absence of belief, because knowing is a statement of fact. You could believe something and it might not be true. This is very important. It is believing that brings you to knowing. I want you to move from believing to knowing. Believing I'm going to be successful to knowing I'm going to be successful. Believing that I'm going to lose weight to knowing that I'm going to lose weight. Believing that I'm going to graduate and knowing that I'm going to graduate. Another thing I want to suggest to you that I find a lot of my mentees struggle with is the mindset of acceptance. You know, along your path, your journey, your life, you're going to lose some friends. You know, it's unfortunate, but human nature, we're kind of built like we need a community. And most people, birds of a feather, flock together. So if you're doing something, i.e. you like to drink, you're going to maybe have a crew of drinkers. Or say if you're into hiking, you might have a crew that you go hiking with. It's all the same. But once you decide that you're going to go this way and the crowd is going this way, you're going to find yourself a lot of times by yourself. This by definition is normal. Just prepare yourself for it. As a matter of fact, it should encourage you that let you know that you're on the right path. Also, something else I want you to consider doing is fasting. When you consider fasting, meditation, prayer, you hear these things, and I know it's talked about in our society, not as prevalent as sports, mind you, but it is talked about. But the reason they're not mentioned in great detail, because these are just basically ancient practices that humanity has learned along the way, but for whatever reason, they're kind of buried or put on the back burner, if you will. I mean, most people really don't pray for someone until one of their loved ones is sick or something tragic has happened. I'm just being honest about that. Most people are not thinking about their spiritual development, their spirituality. It's not in the forefront of their mind. Not that it's not in their mind, but it's not in the forefront of their mind. Your spirit, your consciousness, your energy, when you marry your mind with your emotion, I want you to pay attention. You marry the mind with your emotion, your will, emotion, energy and motion, with your desire. Sort of the mind, body, spirit principle. Well, it's the same with mind, will, and faith or speech. You know, we're the only creatures upon this planet that have been given the great gift of mind and speech. We can literally imagine anything that we want, and within the realms of reason, we can create it. We can build cities in great oceans under the ground now, under the water. They can have great cities that are, people live in the cities under the water, if you will. You can put a colony on Mars, if you will. We could, talk to each other through these devices, if you will. And I'm not in the room with you, but yet you hear me loud and clear. The point I'm trying to make to you is that all this comes from the mind of man. All this comes from us. We are literally the gods. Now, there's going to be a lot of religious dogma around that statement, and I get it, but that's just the traditions of men. It is relatively simple to me. We are the gods. We can literally create anything we want. If we really wanted peace on earth, there would be peace. If you really wanted everyone not to be hungry, there would be no hunger. It's just that simple. But humanity is a reflection of our own thoughts, our own minds, if you will. You see evil because society to a certain extent is evil. You see murder because society to a certain extent are murderers. This is just the truth. Now, I don't want to get too far off that base with that, but I want you to understand the power of the collective consciousness of our society and what we're collectively creating the narrative to be. So, with that being said, you're going to have to separate yourself, if you will. And this can be a very painful process. It might cost you some friends, some loved ones, some family, maybe even your children. Who knows the price you're going to have to pay to find your purpose, to stay on the path that you were designed to do from the inception of time. Being from the moment you were created, your life was planned out to a certain extent for you to do something here on this thing that we call planet Earth, or this rock in which we exist. But I want to encourage you not to be afraid, not to be depressed, not to be overwhelmed, not to be nervous, not to be fearful. You know, if you understand the power of words and what they truly mean, words like good, joy, love, peace, mercy, forgiveness, stability, whatever. And then there's other words: evil, darkness, meanness, bitterness, unforgiving, selfish. You know, don't you see? These words in themselves have no power except the power that you assign to them. You are the filter to filter out these words and how you string them along together. None of this works unless you participate in it. You must understand your power. None of this works. Even all the dogma you hear with society and marriage is falling apart and our children are this or our educational system is that. Be that as it may, none of it works unless you are a willing participant to do it. You must understand that. You must stand in your power. Each of us have it. Unfortunately, many of us have it stripped away from us due to the mere fact that we have never been taught or lacked the courage or the self-will or the emotional fortitude to see it through. So let's recap real quick. 1, decide. 2, write it down. 3, be prepared to write an affirmation or a prayer and say it until you believe it. Say it as many times as you need to. Now, I'm sure many of you are going to understand what I'm going to suggest to you. Whenever you decide to do something, there's this voice, we all have it, that speaks to us. When we're upset and we're pissed off, if you will, it's telling you to cuss this person out. Or if you're saying to you, don't say this or that. We all hear it. That voice, whether you call it your higher self, God, the Holy Spirit, your intuition, again, many different names describing the same thing. I want you to learn to trust yourself. Don't doubt yourself. I'm going to say this to you again, ladies and gentlemen. Don't doubt yourself. In the metaphysical, quantum physics, spiritual realm, the ethereal realm, whatever realm or dimension you want to call it, fine. Everyone's so smart now with spirituality. It's a fascinating topic. But what I want you to understand is that you have to learn to trust you. You got to trust yourself. Now, is everything going to go the way you want it to? Probably not. Probably not. And that's okay too. A lot of times you will hit detours along the way. A lot of times there will be levels of frustration that you've never encountered before. But I want to encourage you. It's true. What does not kill you will make you stronger. I also want you to exude that what you want to become. You see, most people have it backwards. They think once I get some money, I'll change. Or once I get some money, I'll go to the gym and get a great body. Or once I get this, I'll become that. That's not how it works. You become this and then you get this. I'm going to say this to you again. You become that what you think about, and then that what you think about comes to you. This is how the law works. Many of us are wanting our lives to change without us changing in the process. This won't work. You'll find yourself on a treadmill, what I call mental masturbation. It feels good, but nothing really happens outside of that. It's not going to produce any life in you. So, with that being said, trust yourself. Affirmation, meditation, prayer, decide, write it down. Last but not least, be very careful who you tell it to. Be very careful. Unfortunately, because human beings have a habit of being evil, cruel, self-centered, mean, boisterous, haughty, whatever you choose to call it. Many people are only cool with you as long as you're at the same level that they're at. All right? So if you're wanting to excel or go beyond, this is not putting anyone down. We don't think that we're better than anyone. We just think better of ourselves, okay? Let's make that crystal clear. We don't think that we're better than anybody, but you must think better of yourself. Be very careful who you share this information with, because the facts are, if they see you where you're going, it's going to leave them behind. Whether they mean it consciously or unconsciously, most people in some way, shape, form, or fashion are trying to sabotage what you're trying to do. So be very careful about who you're sharing your plans with. You know, if they're not going to vibrate with you, if they're not going to be supportive of you, they're not going to be cheering you on, you know, you got to be very leery about that. And even these are things that you will learn in time. You will learn these things in time. I want to encourage you not to give up. Don't beat yourself up. Build yourself up. I'm going to say this to you again. Don't beat yourself up. Build yourself up. Know that life is for you, happening to you, and through you. You are a soul who has a body. This is just the truth. You are here for a reason. I highly suggest that you do everything in your power to find it. If you want love, be more loving. If you want kindness, be more kind. If you want forgiveness, then be more forgiving. It is true. You reap what you sow. What goes around comes around. These are the universal principles of our existence. I hope that this message helps you, and I really want you to take time to consider, are you living the life you truly want to? Many of us are running out of time. Your most valuable asset is your time. You can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. It will never be this day again, at least not to my knowledge. So I highly encourage you to write it down what you want. Make a commitment, make a decision to live a better life. If you want to be a better husband, focus on that. You want to be a better wife, focus on that. You want to be a better student, focus on that. You want to be a better film editor, whatever, focus. Whatever we focus on, whatever our intention is applied, whatever your attention is, and you apply your attention to your intention, you will see the manifestation of your intention through your attention. I hope that makes sense to you. This is how it works. I want to encourage you to live your life. Don't be afraid. Do not be fearful. These things are real. Fear is a spirit. Now we're going to talk about the other side of that coin, the powers that be. Now, many people, for whatever reason, let religious ideology separate them. So much so it's caused wars and mass murders. I'm sure some of you might be familiar with the Christian Crusades from many moons ago, or many wars with different religious sects. Be that as it may, we're in the year of our Lord 2023. Many people are trying to convince everyone that God doesn't exist. I see it all the time on TikTok, Instagram. God doesn't exist. They call it different names, whether it's Yeshua, Yah, Allah, Jesus Christ, and everyone's going back and forth with each other about this literature, these documents, these scriptures, if you will. I'm not here to debunk any of that, but what I will say to you is this: none of you really know. You only know what you believe, and you only believe what you've been taught. Does it mean that we don't have experiences, be it spiritual, that I guess solidify our belief system? I totally get it. I would be a liar to say I haven't had some miraculous occurrences transpire in my life. But the point I want to make to you is this: out of all those different books and literatures and scriptures, there's one common word. The word is belief. It only works if you believe it. So you must be very careful about what you're choosing to believe. Many people are trying to argue that God doesn't exist. Fine. But the question to me is, why are you so adamant that the devil does? Why are you so adamant that evil is real but God isn't? Now, if we look at these ancient texts and we study them, we'll see that some of this was prophesied to happen from many moons ago. The world would take a turn, and people's heart would grow cold, and people would grow evil. The marriage, the family, the debauchery that exists in our society has become as prevalent as the air. Many of us see it on a day-to-day basis, but because it doesn't touch you personally, you really feel as though it has no effect upon you. This, by definition, is a grave mistake. If you do not take the time to question what you perceive reality to be, especially from a spiritual consciousness observation, you're going to run into some problems here. There are evil forces that are real. If you believe in God, then you should think that the devil exists. Now, you might think, oh, this guy's talking out the side of his neck, and be that as it may, fine. It's of no consequence to me. But I'm here to warn you that evil is a real thing. It is a real thing. And believe it or not, it has weight to it. It has mass. It exists. And not only does evil exist, so does it minions, the minions that it controls for it to exist. You see, all this stuff exists because at root, a lot of people are evil. Now, no one wants to talk about this. No one wants to get on Instagram and call people evil, but that's the reason why it continues to happen. Evil prospers when good people do nothing. There are many great stories that we could talk about in our society, but when you turn on the news, it's never going to lead with a feel-good story. It's going to lead with the murder in Southwest. It's going to lead with a car crash. It's going to lead with something to keep all of us in a certain state of anxiety and fear. You must understand, this is done by design. There is a clear agenda. Now, how do you protect yourself from evil? The number one way to protect yourself from evil is not to become evil. I'm going to say this to you again. The number one way to protect yourself from evil is for you, my friends, not to become evil, not to participate in evil, not to entertain evil. Don't play with evil. Evil is as evil does. Evil. Now, whether one believes in God, I'm not here to convince you of that. I know what my beliefs are, and I'm sure you have your own. But there are some certain things that we should all look at and really understand that we all came from somewhere. We're all here for a reason, and we know we're all going to go somewhere. Now, be it if you're going back to heaven or you're going back to be reincarnated, the fact is, I don't know. I know what I believe, but I do not know. I can't recollect any evidence in my mind that would substantiate me knowing this is where we're going to go outside of what I've read. That's just a true statement. I have faith. I'm sure you do as well. But what I want you to understand is this. If you really want your world to be better, then you have to be the change in the world to make it better. It's not going to just happen on its own. You are in a war. You are in a literal war between light and darkness. You are in a war. Your children, your marriage, your health, everything's about you. That's why they poison the foods and do all these weird things, and all this stuff happens to us. And because most of us are so dumbed down, unfortunately, most of us are so dumbed down, are so bogged down, if you will, through work, responsibilities, paying bills, taking care of our kids, taking them to school, handling your business on the job, trying to maintain a personal relationship with your significant other, just trying to cope and exist in this life. It can be very challenging. I want to encourage you to spend some time spiritually finding out who and what you are. It's up to you. You're given a choice. That is the greatest gift that we all have, the ability to choose. We get to choose what we believe. We get to choose whom we're going to serve. We get to choose what kind of people we're going to be. I hope that all of you learn to choose wisely. Do not let the darkness dim your light. Don't let the darkness destroy your home. Don't let the darkness take your children. Don't let the darkness take your marriage. You see, it only works if you participate. You must participate in order for it to facilitate. That's how it works. You must understand this is why you're held accountable for your decisions. The great God, the source, the light, did not put us here ill-equipped. He did not put us upon this planet without the necessary skill sets and intellect to create a world in which he would be pleased. Not at all. But there is a common force that's trying to stop you. This is that voice that tells you it's not going to work. This is that voice that tells you it's to give up on your marriage, give up on your children, give up on yourself. Don't do it. Don't do it. I implore you. Why am I here to tell you this? I don't know. I'm here because I'm commanded to be here. This is what I've been led to do through all of my life experiences, to come out here and to share with people that you're not alone, that you matter, that you're important, that your life is here for a reason, and it is your responsibility, both spiritually, morally, and even from a financial perspective, to do everything in your power to bring about the destiny that was placed in your heart to do from the moment you were conceived. This might sound far-fetched to some people, and I get that. And I don't mean to be overly dramatic in what I'm stating. But the fact of the matter simply remains that none of us ask the most pertinent and germane questions of why we're here and what we're doing here. And we waste time with frivolous conversations, things that have no purpose, have no consequence to us, and you'll find yourself on your deathbed at 75 with the ghost of regret standing around looking down on you with sad faces because you did not do what you knew you were supposed to do. So, be that as it may, be encouraged. Life is for you, not against you. Meditate, eat healthy, stay away from negative people, stay away from negative dialogue, stay away from negative imagery. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. I cannot stress that to you enough. You must believe in yourself. You know how I get what I want? I tell people this all the time because I believe I already have it. And in some way that I can't explain to you, it comes. I can't explain it. I know how I do it. I just don't know how it comes. I want you to understand that. And the power is no respecter of persons. It doesn't love Mr. Johnson more than it loves this guy. It doesn't. It only responds to him in the way that I respond to it. I hope this message helps. I hope it encourages you to live your life. Don't give up. Forgive yourself. Put the past in the past. All you can do is learn from it. God bless you. God keep you. I'm Mr. Johnson. It's been a pleasure. Hey, listen, don't forget to follow on Instagram, the TX Johnson. Make sure you hit that follow. Check me out on TikTok, Terrance.x.Johnson on TikTok. And make sure you check out my YouTube channel, The Evolution Podcast Now with Mr. Johnson. As always, it's a pleasure. God bless. Your boy, Mr. J. Peace.